Hi everybody, Steven here. In this video, we're going to continue on with our Site Recovery Manager, but we're going to take a look at the various resource mappings that we need to set up. So if you want to learn more about that, stick around. We'll see you in a bit. Hi everyone, thanks for sticking around. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the different ways we can map various resources. One of the more important one is our network mapping, but we'll take a look at folder mapping, resource mappings. We'll also take a look at storage policy mappings as well, placeholder data store and such. So this is really still part of our setting up Site Recovery Manager or VMware Live Site Recovery. Now, before we begin, I always like to throw this out at this point. Hey, for those of you that subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, 2 thumbs up to you. Really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Without subscribers, there's no content developers, right, folks? Also, if you find this entertaining at least or a bit helpful, hit that thumbs up. I see a lot of people viewing the videos, but I'm not getting a lot of thumbs up on it. So appreciate it if you can do that. Another way to support the channel is, again, sharing links, subscribing, all that wonderful stuff. And I also do have super thanks enabled, but that's totally up to you. So why don't we get started? Okay, so let's jump right into it. So I'm logged into in my examples that I've been doing in the last few videos, I've got 2 sites, Site A with some VMs, you can see it over here. I also have a Site B. Let's go over to Site B here, that's in Chrome. So there's a Site B cluster with a couple of hosts and there's no VMs there. We've already installed Site Recovery Manager appliance. We've already installed the vSphere Replication Server appliance at both sites. Again, watch those previous videos, all right? So what we need to do now is continue on setting up Site Recovery Manager. So let's go into here. I'm on Site A. So I'm going to go into here under my main menu. I'm going to go to Site Recovery. And then it'll come up here. I just wait for this to come up. And there we go. So my vSphere Replication and Site Recovery Manager are okay. If you're having problems here, a lot of times it could be time synchronization. So sometimes a quick way probably would just reboot the appliance. In my lab environment, I run into that issue sometimes. But anyways, I'm going to click on Open Site Recovery Manager. And at that point, you see my Site A over here, and then going to Site B, which is the other site. You'll see I got my Site Recovery Manager, protected groups, recovery plans, vSphere replications. I get nothing set up really, just again, the appliance has been deployed. Let's click on View Details. It's going to ask me to log into Site B now. So I'm going to log in at Site B. There we go. And at that point, this is the main screen that you'll get. Now, we haven't gotten into replications yet. We'll talk about that in another video. We'll talk about replications, protection groups, and then recovery plans. I'll save that for another video or videos. So under Configure here, what I want to look at, I can go into advanced settings. We'll take a look at that maybe in a separate video under recovery plans. I'll show you something there, but I want to look at these parts here, right? So let's start at the bottom and look at placeholder data stores. Now you'll notice I've got a placeholder data store, my vSAN data store. When we want to protect a VM, when we protect a VM, we need to have what's called a placeholder VM at the other site, the site we're recovering to. Again, it's just like I said, it's a placeholder, right? Basically letting us know that we're going to recover over there. Now, in order to have that, these placeholder VMs are very small, very, very small. We need to have a data store at each site to hold these placeholders. This data store, one, needs to be accessible by all hosts in the cluster, so it has to be a shared storage. More importantly, though, it's a data store that you do not replicate over to the recovery site. So these are local data stores only to your local environment, to your site, let's say. Now notice over here it picked Site B data store, or sorry, it picked my vSAN data store. If I click on this, Site B, you'll see it also picked that. Now I've got vSAN enabled on both Site A and Site B. So it sees that and sees that I don't have any other local storage. I could add in one here if I wanted to, but I don't. I'm just using vSAN, okay? Notice that, yeah, when I clicked on New, notice it says it's already configured. So by default, it says, okay, I'll use the vSAN as your placeholder data store, which is fine. Okay. So great. I've got to have that set up at both sites, and it's already done for me. All right. So that's pretty straightforward. If you weren't using vSAN, you'd have to click on New, and then from you'll see your data store. So you would pick one. Like I said, it's got to be a data store that's local to that site only and accessible by all hosts in that same cluster at that site. And you repeat the process for the second site, your site B. Let's talk about storage policy mappings. This is actually kind of a cool feature. Since I'm using vSAN at both sites, and I don't have to, I could be using vSAN at one site and some other storage subsystem at another site. That's totally fine. As long as I'm using vSphere replication, I could do something like that. But since I got vSAN at both sites, I could say, all right, if I'm using, let's create a new policy, storage policy mapping. So click on this. I can say automatically prepare mappings and policies with matching names. What that means is if I pick that, if I go next, if I just pick, just leave these and let's add mappings. Notice it said 14 mappings were automatically done for me. What it's going to do, it's going to look for storage policies at both sites and match them up. It'll say, oh, you've got a policy here, like for example, VM encryption policy, you got that. And I also have one over here. So it mapped those two together. It says, oh, those are the same. So if a VM has this policy at the site A, it's going to have this policy at site B as well. Maybe you don't, I'm going to go back. Maybe you don't want to do that. This is kind of neat. Maybe I want to do something manually. For example, let's go next. Let's say at my protection site, on my site A, let's say I've got VMs using the vSAN default storage policy. All right, so that would be failure to tolerate equals 1. In other words, I'm mirroring. I get more on vSAN stuff, watch my vSAN videos. Now, maybe on the recovery site, I'm not suggesting this. Maybe on the recovery site, you can pick a different storage policy. Maybe you're doing mirroring on your site A, but on site B, storage is at a premium. So maybe you're going to do RAID 5 if you have that capability. I don't have that capability on my site B, but let's say I pick failure to tolerate of 0. I'm not suggesting that. And I can go add mapping, and I'll go next. So, and then at this point here, so what it's saying is on site A, if somebody has the default storage policy of failure to tolerate equals 1, when it goes over to site B, it's going to have a failure to tolerate of 0. It's not going to do mirroring. Maybe I just want to save space. I'm not suggesting that. Maybe you could do RAID 5 or something. Now, when I click next, notice it's saying reverse mappings. So great. Let's say I fail over from site A to site B, right? Now I want to fail back, right? So at site B, it's failure to tolerate equals 0. And then when I fail back, it's going to go back to the vSAN default, which in this case would be failure to tolerate equals 1. So you're always going to have this reverse mapping if we fail back. So I'm just going to click on next, and I click finish. So there I just created a storage policy mapping. You don't have to do that, okay? This is optional. Same thing with resource mappings. This would be like resource groups, or resource pools, I should say. So again, I don't really have any on site A, but maybe on site B. How about this? Let's say you've got workloads running at site B, and now you're having all these VMs from site A failing over to site B, and maybe you want to, put some shares or limits or reservations on those. So maybe you want them to land in a resource pool on site B. So if I go new here, I'm not going to see anything. I don't really have it. Or did I set something up already? I got my clusters and that's it. Okay, so I only got my clusters at both sites. Okay, whippy-do, right? I'm going to cancel that. Let's go to site B. Let's do this. I'm going to open up my Chrome here. This is site B now, okay? Notice it says SB cluster. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to say new resource pool. And let's say, you may not do this, but I'm just, just a suggestion. Let's say site, let's call this site-a resource-pool. So any VMs failing over from site A, I want them to go in this resource pool for whatever reasons. And I can put shares, I can modify my shares, limits, and reservations, just like I talked about in resource pools. See my videos on that. I'm going to say OK. So I just created a resource pool on site B. Let's go back to site A. Let's get rid of this guy. Let's go into new. Now, I'm going to pick site A. I'm going to say whatever. If I had resource pools in site A, I could do a mapping to mapping, but I'm just going to say anybody in the site A cluster, and it's going to go to site B. Let's expand this resource pool. I'm going to go add mapping. So now anybody from site A cluster, resource VMs, will be placed in this resource pool. If I click next, guess what? It's going to ask me for a reverse mapping. So if I fail back, it's going to come from this pool and go into the root resource pool of site A cluster. So you can do something like that if you want to. I can have multiple resource pools on one site, multiple resource pools on another site, and link and map those if I want to. I'm keeping this demo really simple. Not a lot of people use resource pools, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you could do something like that, a way for you to kind of be able to distinguish VMs, okay? I'm going to click finish, and I'll say, okay, creating resource pool effect, already protected VMs, okay, whatever, I'm going to go next, all right? So it's created that resource pool, all right? Let's just check that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it didn't have a resource pool when it was coming back, so that's fine. All right, so let's go now and look at folder. Same kind of things for folders, okay? If you're using folders in your environment for permissions or for just organizing objects, you could do something. So let's create a couple of folders, actually. Let's go into site A, just for argument's sake. Let's go into site A here. I'm going to go in my templates view, and I'm going to right-click on my data center, and I'm just going to make a folder here. Let's say new folder, new virtual machine and template folder. I'll call this web-folder. Maybe you're going to put all your web servers in there. Let's create another one, new folder. Let's just call this database-folder. Again, optional. You don't have to do these, but I'm just giving an example. Let's go back into and create another folder, new folder, VM that was web. Let's say app-folder. Now I'll say okay. Beautiful. Let's go to site B and create some folders, okay? So let's go back into site B. This is site B. I'm on now. See, it says site B, vCenter server, okay? Let's go into the virtual machines templates view, and I could do the exact same thing, create the same folders, right? Let's say new folder, and I could type in web-folder, app-folder, and I can have the mappings, so those VMs in those folders get mapped to the folder on site B. I could do something like that. Or maybe if I want to do something a little bit more specific, I could say web-folder-site-A. This would be the folder for my web servers for site A, let's say, right? Let's repeat the process. New folder. I'm just showing you have lots of flexibility here. So we'll say app-folder-site-A, and then I'm going to do another one for database, right? So let's right-click, new folder, new virtual machine templates folder, database-folder, folder-site-A, and I'll say okay. So I just created these folders at both sites. That's all I've done. I haven't put any VMs in there. I could actually do that. Put my app VM in the app folder. Let's do that. Database VM in the database folder. Web VMs. I created a web folder. This is on site A. Let's put that in. Okay. So this is just me organizing things. If I go back into Site Recovery Manager, I'm on Site Recovery Manager in site A now. I can say new folder mapping. Again, I could do automatically map. Let's say I had them named exactly the same. It would go through and say, oh, they're the same name. It will automatically map them. Let's do that. Let's go next. Let's see what it does. Let's just pick the data center at both sites and say add mappings. And it comes up and says it's found some mappings. Let's say continue. And it found site A data center. Okay. I found discovered VMs to the discovered VM. So it's only found the two mappings. If I like this, I could leave it. I could go, nah, you know what? Let me remove that one. So you can actually go in and remove ones that it automatically finds. Now, I'm not going to say automatic because I made mine different. But if you made yours the same, all you have to do is hit that, pick and choose, and away you go. I'm going to say do it manually. I go next. I'm going to open up my data center, open up that data center. I'm going to pick the app folder here, the app folder site A, add mapping. Database folder to database folder site A, add mapping. And then last but not least, web folder to web folder site A, and then add mapping. So, and I can just go next, and it's going to do a reverse mapping. So when it's coming back from site A, anything from this app folder site A, going over to site A will just go into whatever my app folder if you wanted to, okay? So it does that reverse mapping. What I cannot do, let's go back, let's cancel this. Let's go new mapping. Let's prepare mapping manually. Let's say I want, just as an example, I want app folder, database folder, and web folder all going into whatever, discovered VMs. So you see how I got multiple folders going into one location at the recovery site? And when I go next to the reverse mapping, it can't pick. Notice it'll say, okay, this folder here called discovered VMs, when I fail back, which one do you want to go into? It won't let me, it won't go back into app, database, and whatever. So I could do a one-to-one. I can't do a many to one. It works, but I can't go back from a one to many, if that makes sense. So it's not going to let me go back to the original mapping. So let's get rid of that. Let's cancel that, and let's go next. Actually, I could have just went in here and delete them. And you'll see this in action when we start doing recovery plans. So let's do app folder, site A, add mapping, database folder, site A, add mapping, and web server, add mapping. Yeah, that looks good. I go next. I got my reverse mappings, and I go next, and I'm done. Oh, sorry. Let's cancel that. Let's go back. Select the reverse mappings, and go next, and then done. There we go. So I just created my reverse mappings as well. All right. All right. Those ones there, I'm going to be honest with you, resource pools and folders, who cares? But some of you might, all right? Maybe you don't want all those VMs from site A being dumped in the root of your cluster at site B, okay? So you may want to organize things. Totally understandable, right? Let's get into network mapping. This is one of the things you're going to do. You're going to need to do this, right? If you don't do it now, you'll have to do it when you do recovery plans, right? So let's look at my site A for a second. So I've got some VMs here. So I got my app VM. If I scroll down to my app VM, it's hooked up to this port group over here. If you look right over here on the right side, it's hooked up to PG port group app. If I look at my database VM, it's hooked up to a port group called database. And if I look at my web server, my web servers, you'll see it's hooked up to a port group called PG web. Let's look at my networking. I am using a distributed switch. And you'll see I got a port group called app, port group called database, port group called web. That's on site A. So when my VMs fail over, let's say something's going to happen to site A, it dies, and I need to fail over or restart those VMs on site B, what port groups do they run in? That's where this network mapping is very important. Let's go to site B, and you'll see on site B, if we go to networking, I've got my distributed switch there, but I don't have port groups for those VMs, okay? Now, this is the part where you may have to sit down and think about this. Like, I can go here and right-click and say, distributed port group, new distributed port group, and I'll call one called PG-web. That's fine. I'll go next, whatever. And then I'll do another one, distributed port group, new distributed port group. Let's say PG-database, and then next, whatever. And then let's do one more, distributed port group, PG-app. Great, and I go next. So now when I go to do my mapping, let's go back to site A. So what I did is I made duplicate port groups over on that other site, okay? Remember, it's a different vCenter server, different distributed switch. Now, if I was using NSX and I had a stretched network, that would be a different ballgame. I can generally skip this mapping of networks, but we're not talking about NSX. So let's go back into site recovery. Under network mapping, let's say new. And at that point, I can say automatic, right? Let's see what happens here. I'll go next. I'll pick my data center and say anything you find the same in data center, in site A data center, and site B data center, map them. And it says it's found one mapping under SA data center. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm glad I messed up on that, right? It only found PG management, PG manager. That is a port group on a standard switch, right? I'm going to delete that. The reason why I didn't find the exact management port mappings is because the Site A VDS and Site B VDS are different names. So let me pick this. I shouldn't have picked the data center. I should have picked the distributed switch. Now when I say add mappings, it's going to look for port groups that are the same under those two distributed switches. Let's go add mappings, and it found 5. Wow, 5. So it found a port group app. I want that. Port group database. I want that. Found a vMotion. No, I don't want that. Let's remove it. It found a vSend. No, I don't want that. Let's remove it. And it found web. Okay. So it's saying, hey, any VMs on port group web on site A, when I fail them over, they're going to be attached to port group web on site B. That might be perfectly fine for what you want. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to say, no, I already got site B already has web servers. I want to put them on a different port group. Maybe I'll call that port group PG site A web, PG site A B, that sort of thing, okay? So totally up to you. I'm going to keep mine the same. I'm going to get next. Reverse mappings. I will select these. It says select configured mappings for which automatically reverse mappings. So I'm going to select those reverse mappings. So it's say, yep, create those reverse mappings for me. And I'll go no. I go next. Now, this is actually rather important, okay? This test network. One of the capabilities, and I'll demo this in a different video when we talk about recovery plans, is I can actually test my recovery plan. So let's say I go, well, okay, I want to be able to test my recovery plan. Let's start up VMs on site B while the VMs are still running on site A, and let's test those workloads to make sure they're working, right? This is the beauty of Site Recovery Manager or Live Recovery, right? Now, what's the downside about that? If those VMs start up on a network at that site B, you may have conflicts. It may interrupt or conflict with other VMs there. That would be a bad thing. So you might want to say, no, I want these VMs for test networks. I want these VMs to start up in an isolated network. And notice it says automatically created. So it will create a port group, and it will put the VMs on that port group, and it will be what's called isolated. In other words, it'll be a virtual switch that does not have any network cards attached to it. So it'll only VMs on the same host will be able to talk to each other. So that might be okay. Now, one of the things you got to be aware of, again, this isolated network, is if the VMs are recovering on different hosts in Site B, they're not going to be able to talk to each other across hosts because that's what an isolated network is. So what you probably want to do is create test networks, right? Maybe create a test web, test app, test database on Site B, have them on a separate VLAN that's completely isolated from anybody else, and then you can run your tests from there, okay? Now, I didn't do that, but I would go into change, and I would basically specify or pick my network here. Again, I would create, maybe a virtual switch on that site that doesn't have a network card, or better yet, I'll create a port group that's on an isolated VLAN that only a certain room has access to. So this is something you're probably going to want to sit back and really think about. I'm just going to pick isolated network. That will work in my lab environment. In the real world, you'd probably create your own port group, isolated VLAN, so it's not going to ever get to your outside world, so then you can do your tests on it, if that makes sense. So this is really cool. I'll do a little video on this one as well. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to leave this as isolated, and I'm going to go next, and it's ready to complete, and I go finished, and I go continue. And that's pretty much about it. So let's go back into my resource mapping. Now, I did mess up on this one. I just realized this on that first one there. When I created this resource pool, let's edit this thing. And actually, let's go in and delete it. Let's go in and delete it. I did my resource pools here. Say new resource pool. I said anybody from cluster A, site A, is going to go into this resource pool. Site A resource pool. I'll go add mapping. I go next. I didn't select this checkbox to do a reverse mapping, if you're wondering. I'm going to go next, and it's automatically going to create that. And it says reverse mapping. Yes. And I go next and then finish. So now if I go to site B, you see there's that reverse mapping. Folder mapping, I should have the same stuff. There we go. Network mapping, the same stuff. So that's pretty much it for our mappings and placeholder data stores, okay? So this is a part of your setup that you're going to need to do. At a minimum, you're generally going to be doing your network mapping. All right. Now let's take a look. One more thing, and I'll probably do a separate demo on this one. If I select my port group here, let's say web. So I got my web servers on the web port group, and they're going to fail over to whatever port group on site B. I called it port group web. That's fine. Now, does the VM start up with the same IP address? Ideally, yes. But notice down here, IP customization. I can go add. And I can say, okay, my web servers on site A are on 172.16.10 network. And it's got a 24-bit mask. And I want it to start up on the other site. It's got to be the same mask, maybe the 172.16.1110.0 with the 24-bit. So it'll automatically change those settings for me. Same thing with my gateway and DNS servers if I need to, and WINs and whatnot. I'll probably do a separate video on this one here once we get into doing recovery plans. But anyway, so there is a way for you if you have to. And again, some customers try to avoid it, which I would try to avoid having to re-IP VMs. If the IPs at this site is whatever the IPs are when it comes up at the other site, ideally you want them the same. But if you don't have a choice in the matter, because it's going to have a conflict, you can actually change it. You could even do it on a per VM basis. There's a couple ways actually you could do it. I'll do a separate video on it. But I wanted to point that one out. That's it for mappings, resource mappings. I hope you found this useful and beneficial. If you found this entertaining, please hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave comments and questions down below. My next video, I'll talk about replications and protection groups. And then we'll probably get into recovery plans. I think that'll be along to a couple of videos there. So see you in the next one.